So for the project itself, what we're going to do is we're going to be taking a page that's 12 by 18 inches. So we're going to start out with the thumbnail, and we're going to draw a rectangle that represents that page. So when we have a thumbnail that is a drawing that is just very rough, that kind of gives us the shape of that. And really with the thumbnail, we're just trying to get the general idea of what it is that we're trying to show. Now with this, we're going to kind of focus, we're going to split the page in half. So there's several ways that you can do that. You can split it, if it's a vertical page, we can split it vertically like this. We can split it horizontal. If we want to do the image horizontally, we can do the same thing. So we've got lots of options here as far as how it's going to look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split it down the center here. And what we're trying to achieve is on one half of the page, we want to show our value. We're going to show our texture, and we are going to show our line. And realistically, line is going to be throughout the entirety of the image because line kind of is involved with everything. Shape is going to be involved with all of it because that's one that we're going to talk about the next time. But over here, we're going to have our color, our shape, and our space really is going to be throughout the entirety of the image. So what I'm going to do is just kind of a little cartoon face. And I'm going to try to split them down the middle, so they're going to be a little bit goofy. So we're going to have one eye, it's going to be here. And like I said, these don't have to look like anything pretty. They can be really rough sketches. So we're going to have one eye be really small, and have one eye be really big. Take that, split it down the middle, there's the eyelids. Okay, and we get a nose. And like I said, really rough, kind of make them sort of happy, big smile. And really, what we're doing with this is just laying out kind of a general shape of where things are going to be. It can be a landscape drawing to where you have a scene going on like this, to where you've got a house, you've got a well with a pond, with a path, and we've got a wagon off in the background. So ideally, when we think about this, we want to have a foreground, we want to have a middle ground, we want to have a background, because ultimately we're going to be trying to show space. So with him, with this guy, he's going to be in the foreground. He's going to be really close to us. And we'll give him a little tiny chin, like this. And then we'll give him a little tiny neck with some shoulders. And we'll get his arms going up like this. So this doesn't necessarily have to look like a whole lot. You just have to kind of get a concept down here. A concept like that, and run his hands off the page. Now, part of the reason why we draw our rectangles really small instead of just taking the page, dividing it in half, and using that entire thing is because if we have a concept like this where it runs off the page, or we need to move the drawing around a little bit because it's going to work out a little bit better, then we have that option. So one that I did earlier, it started out as a horizontal image like this. After I started drawing it, it worked out better to be a vertical one. So if I used that entirety of the page, I wouldn't have that option. But because it was just a small rectangle, I redrew the rectangle around it and added everything into it. Okay? So with this, we're going to start out here, and let's see, we give him a hat. We'll give him a bowler hat. It comes across like this. Big hat, little divot in the middle. Like that. Now, when we do this, we kind of have to think about where things are going to be. I've got a color wheel that's going to go on this side. Over here on this side, I'm going to have a value scale. All right. So you can decide where that's going to go a lot of times after the fact. If you get just an initial concept drawn in, then we can kind of work with that and try to get everything else laid in after the fact. So more than likely, what I'll do is right here, I'll have a blended value scale. And what I mean by a blended value scale is where you have a dark shadow like this that goes all the way to light, and we want to show 6 steps of value with 6 distinct steps. So you're going to have your pencil really dark, it's going to go lighter like this. And then some other place on the page, we're going to have another type of value scale. And that value scale is going to be either a crosshatch like this, where you use lines that run across each other and that are closer together and overlapping, and then as they get further apart, they're going to get lighter. Or we're going to do a stipple. We're using dots to create your value. So the dots that are closer together and a lot tighter are going to be darker, and then the dots get lighter and they get further apart as they spread out. Okay? Or you can do just a hatch, where your lines run parallel to each other and don't actually overlap. So you got to pick two of those. Okay. So for this, I've got some stuff going on. I can put a building back here in the background. We'll make them in a parking lot. So there's a building with a door, and we'll make a big sign. He kind of looks like a car salesman, so we'll go with that. Now, we want to try to avoid having words in it unless it's on a billboard or something like this. And we'll throw in a little meter car in the background here. There's a wheel. Like I said, it doesn't have to be super detailed. There's my car there. We'll put a little car over here. On the actual thing, this would be a lot more detailed. This is just kind of a placeholder. And we'll put some flags coming off here like this. Little pennants, because they have those at car dealers. Alright, so I've got one type of value would be here. We'll do another type of value in here in the parking lot. So we'll make this a stipple. Alright, so then for the other part of it, I need to have a color wheel somewhere. And if I'm going to have a value here, I can do my colors over here on the other side, and we'll talk more about that next time. But just as far as we can lay stuff out on the page, that works out really good. So let's just do it now. I got my 12 colors here, my primary colors, my intermediate colors, and my secondary colors. So I got 12 steps there. I'm going to have neutral colors, black, gray, and white, and I can put those in. We'll do that on his eye. So we'll have this kind of be black, and we'll go gray and white, and we'll do some shading over here. And then I have he's in my foreground. I have cars in the middle ground. I've got the house in the background. So those are my, that's showing my depth or my space. And then shape, I need some geometric shapes, which I have in the building, and I'll have in the car itself, and some organic shapes. And he's all organic shapes. So we'll do that. And he's a seedy little car salesman, so he's got a mustache. He twirls. So that is the project as a whole, as far as our thumbnail. Now we're going to take this concept, blow it up real big, so that way it'll fit on our large piece of paper. All right.